story is always important to players. A universe like Destiny, divorced of story, is just kind of like a sports game. You can't become legend in a place that doesn't mean anything.
Early days, we were definitely looking at the existing mission structure because the game wasn't out yet, so it was in a bunch of ways the devil we know. It was really important to us and the story folks before the game came out to even try to figure out like how are we going to move to more characterful interactions and have like we have this like stable of cool characters in the Vanguard. Like we knew we wanted to use them more, but then like when the game came out, all of us at Bungie are like, okay, it's probably time to like look at pivoting a little bit. Like let's make some changes to some of the stuff that we'd been doing with the Dark Below, and Mark and I working on our thing. And
we didn't limit ourselves to like what Destiny 1 shipped with. We had to look at, when we're trying to push forward storytelling, what other devices can we bring to the forefront that's going to help us tell stories that we're interested in, that players are going to care about, right? With the Dark Below, they introduced a new channel, which was like a quest giver. Like we realized there are these characters in the tower that actually have a lot of personality, and like you're forming these relationships with as you're picking up bounties or buying guns or whatever, and they start to really mean something to you. Like I think we saw this with the Cryptarch, who's like, it's not even like a storytelling character in year one, but like he's one of the most popular characters in Destiny, right? And we thought like we really need to bring those characters into the story, and because of the way the players can choose to play story missions or go into PvP or then play strikes or do patrols or go backwards and forwards in time and do all this stuff, it actually makes telling like a simple linear story like pretty challenging for us. And so with the Dark Below, they realized, hey, we can provide context for your actions if we leverage one of these characters. And so that's where, that combined with the exotic bounties, that idea and the mechanics there led us to a new storytelling channel essentially, which was like, well, let's have quests and let's have NPCs in the tower that are, really quest givers and can end up being the benefactor for the missions that you're playing.
The questification of the year one content, aligning it with the player experience of the Taken King, like reveals some stuff that I think was probably scary to the Bungie of a year ago. It does reveal the RPG nature of the game. Like when you early on in the game pick up a, Patrols 101 quest line, and it basically just lists a bunch of stuff for you to go do in the patrol activity. Mm-hmm. The patrol activity, if you remember in Vanilla Destiny, did ask you to do some stuff. Like you would pick up 3 bounties concurrently and you'd get to sort of tap your way through them, and it was fine. You go do that and turn in for XP. That feels very different. Even though the mechanics are almost identical, the presentation of it changes radically when it's on a quest log, a quest screen, and you can track it. So when you bring up your ghost HUD, you see like, I need to kill 2 more VIPs, do 2 more race bound. Like it makes the game feel a little bit different in a way that probably, years ago we would have been more nervous about that like role-playing game element of it. And we've started to lean in more to that, but we're still first and foremost this like kinetic sandbox action.
In the top right-hand corner of the HUD now, when a character's talking to you, you'll see their name up there, which because especially for new players, like not everyone knows what Zavala sounds like, or Cade Six, or heck, even the Ghost, right? And so this is a reinforcement of that. But that is a new storytelling channel. Yes, there was always voiceover, but now there's voiceover with some additional context, and it's like super minor, and like it's a really small feature. But I personally find as a player of like first-person shooters, it's really hard to understand and appreciate the story because the visceral nature of being in first person and running around and shooting stuff, because of that player story, because it's so strong, to like be able to sit back for a second and just appreciate like the linear story, switching back to that is difficult, it's challenging. And so like often what it takes is just like 100 little things. The quest itself, the name of the mission, the setup of the dialogue, maybe there's a cinematic in there, things that you're doing, the actions you're taking in the mission, that little icon and the person's name, like all these things working together, and then suddenly you're like, hey, actually, I really know what I'm doing, I understand the context, I know where I'm headed and why, and I'm excited to do this thing.
One of the things that was really appealing to me about the ability to have, a big villain is that his presence in the universe is the result of player action. It's the ultimate in player empowerment to say like, hey, that guy you beat up last year, Crota, that guy who you pulled the internet cable on, like his dad's here and he's pissed. It's like the ISP's showing up and you're going to get punished. And the reason why that's exciting is not because of the lag switch, but because it's about the things that players did as an entity last year, influencing the future. And what we hope that does is that inspires your mind and your imagination when you're running around Destiny in year 2, hoping that some of the stuff that you're going to do is going to play into what's going to happen next. And that to me is really exciting. It also gave us context. Like Oryx's arrival gives us context for the year. It gives us the excuse to give players to come back and like bathe the aliens in your bullets. Oryx's revenge is the reason and justification for you to like suit up and get back out there and kick alien ass. I mean, the way we described it internally for a long time is bad guy shows up in town, brings his evil fortress and an army. It's your job to stop him. Like, that's the elevator pitch. It's a simple tale.
You want to talk a little bit about the Cayde strategy? He's such a big part of the Taken King. Do you want to talk about how you approach that?
Yeah, the Cayde strategy is like really putting lipstick on the like to me like relatively obvious pig, which is, you know, Fillion's fucking awesome. In vanilla, it's you stand next to him in the tower and like Mario, he like whispers to you like, take me with you. Like, and he doesn't get to show up enough. Nathan is so good.
Well, just that one line like hints at a character for, you know, Cayde 6 of this like guardian who wishes he wasn't in the tower.
Take me with you.
Just that line alone is interesting. Like, how do we get what's behind that into the game more?
And when you have someone as well voiced as Cayde, and you take another great voice in Eris, and you have these two very contrasting personalities, when you throw those two characters against each other, I think there's genuine fun for the interactions between the two of them. They're both hunters, which I didn't really necessarily realize at first, because Eris doesn't look too much like a hunter. She seems like a weird warlock. But they have very different approaches to the world. There's a lot in the game that makes me laugh, and that was another thing about Cayde, which is like, it's dark, man. Shit is bad. Like, Satan's here and he's pissed because you killed his kid. And that's like you could get into some real gangster shit. Like, it could be like really dark and evil and scary, but it's like, well, no, you need some levity. So Cayde is like an amazing fit for this because he just makes stuff more fun. He does a great job.
Do you worry about it falling too much of in a trap of like, you know, they basically set up mission objective and then Cayde comes in at the end and says, whatever, guys. That seems to be the rhythm that Taken King takes. Do you worry about that repetitive structure?
I think that if we were trying to carry the joke for like, you know, 100 linear hours, I think that would be pretty tough, and we'd want to construct some more emotional variety. But because we're really trying to deliver a tale to you in six or 7 hours of, you know, Dark Snow to, you know, the climax before you sort of eject into this end game, I think that we can carry the bit pretty far for those two.
I think a lot of people are going to want to know the removal of Peter Dinklage, if it's a response to fan criticism about the performance or about his voice in general, or if it's some contractual Hollywood nonsense.
It's more on the nonsense side of things. Like Dinklage, Dinklage was awesome to work with on Destiny 1, but we just need to work with somebody who's more available. Like, and Nolan's just, he's a pro. This is his thing. We can call him up and like, hey, next week, can we do this thing? We're doing an internal play test, and it'd be great to get like ghost dialogue in there instead of using the robot voice that we use, and he's available.
The Ghost represented a bunch of untapped potential. One of the things that we wanted to do with him, in addition to bringing in Nolan to be the voice of him, which is super exciting, is also make him sort of like a, you know, purveyor of lore. Like, so as you're walking around the universe, you know, Mark was talking earlier about the thing in the upper right-hand corner of the screen that's telling you who's talking. Well, that thing will also alert you, and you'll hear an audio cue when there's something nearby that you can scan. And what that is, you know, it's non-invasive, optional storytelling where you can just pull out your ghost. He's going to emit a scan pulse that's going to highlight something in the world, and you're going to, you know, press the X or square button on it on your chosen console, and he's going to give you a little information about that. Maybe it's a weird statue. Maybe it's a dead former boss from, you know, battles long gone. Maybe it's like a weird worm. Maybe it's a dying cabal. Maybe it's a weapon. It's a way to learn a little bit more about the world, about the environment, and it also, like, contextually is like a sound usage of what this, like, the little robot in your back pocket could do. Like, hey, like, Siri, tell me about this. Like, it, you know, that's a good usage for the Ghost.
They are not, to be clear, you know, it's not the grimoire in the game, but like what people got out of the grimoire was a lot of the rich lore that, you know, existed as we built Destiny over, you know, years and years of doing concept development that was, you know, put explicitly in these cards on the web. And we're players, like, we want this lore in the game too, right? And we want players to go to new places, move through the world, and discover the story of the environment and the combatants that they're fighting, right? And you do some of that in the normal action game, and you're gonna get some of that in the normal, like, linear story, but like making some of this discoverable is really exciting.
Like, it's not a joke, but it sounds like one when I say it, which is like, I do feel like in a bunch of ways, like, you know, Destiny merges a bunch of my favorite experiences I've had in a bunch of games, and I can't imagine what I could be working on instead of this. Like, the opportunity to keep trying to push this thing that, you know, I and so many people who work here care so much about forward. Like that, yeah, that opportunity is not lost on us. So we're always listening, we're always watching, and we're always reading for ways that we can make it better.